interested onlookers. When my dad first told me the story of how he met my mom over a bottle of beer, I was emotionally touched. It is on that premise I'll be presenting my first constructive argument. Alcohol as part of our society, as part of our culture, I'll be proving to you why alcohol is inherent in our social society and inherent in how we interact with other people. Before going on to review Ratika's 1 point, rebuilding my partner's points, and then summarizing this round into 2 groups. To get my first constructive argument about social, like how alcohol affects society and culture. We feel that, first off, we're going to look at it from a cultural standpoint. We feel that in a lot of cultures and customs, such as the Chinese culture, you do drink alcohol when you're at marriages, you do drink alcohol when you are at parties, you do drink alcohol at certain times in a responsible environment in order to release your stress, in order to express your happiness, in order to actually cooperate with other people. We see that what essentially alcohol does is it takes away this barrier of ice that essentially most human beings who are strangers to each other have. What essentially alcohol does is alcohol eventually reduces that barrier. What alcohol actually does is it allows people to actually make friends with each other. But if you can't make friends with each other over a bottle of beer, we don't see how you can make friends with each other outside of it. Like sure, there's hobbies and stuff that you can build up, but you can't truly get to know like every other stranger if you don't have all these hobbies. There is no thank you. The only way I can have a friendship with another person is either A, if I have a lot of similar interests with them, or 2, we can both be in a state of mind where we're relaxed and we can actually talk about it. If we can't get into a relaxed state of mind where we can actually talk about our interests, I don't see where we can actually build that foundation up to. No thank you. So, what that essentially means is that it actually ruins a way for people to actually like form this chain, form this like connection between other people. And we feel that that's detrimental to society because all of a sudden you're going to have a society that's all pent up with anger, a society that's all pent up with stress, like partner's second point. But furthermore, you're not going to have a society that has a lot of friendships. And that if you don't have friendships, how the heck are you supposed to like institute all these institutions like MAD, like whatever hospitalities they want to like introduce, like all these institutions to benefit society if you don't have a society that's friendly in the first place. So with that being said, let's go into refutation of Ratika's 1 point about like it's more or less like refutation of my partner's point about like alcohol. So I'll do that in a conjunction. It's pretty much the same thing. So basically what she said is that emotional appeal after 80 years will work when like emotional appeal of 2,920 years didn't work. Like, I don't see the realization because the only time like the U.S. truly banned alcohol was like according to them the 1920s, which I don't think is the correct date. Correct me if I'm wrong, but even so, like all those years before, like the emotional appeal building up to that, how come that didn't work, and how can you justify the last 8 years do? They seem to say that now all of a sudden society frowns upon alcoholism. No, society doesn't. Like, can you just still embrace getting drunk? Can you just still embrace using alcohol at parties? We feel that that's not sufficient refutation to say to my partner's point, simply that, well, all of a sudden people frown upon alcoholism. Yes?
I'm sorry, did you just say teachers embrace getting drunk?
I said teenagers embrace getting drunk. Sorry for the pronunciation error if you didn't hear me properly. So what essentially that says is that it sends a message towards the teenagers that it's even more rebel now to get drunk because now there's no prohibition towards that. That leads towards even more people going into the underground situation because we're covering that mystical dust and actually the rebuilding part of the partner's point. So there's three things we see a person can actually do. The first thing is they can actually like stall alcohol, get all that pent up stress in my partner's second point, and then go on and actually inflict harm onto other people of society. That's actually negative society. So that's for that. So that part of society, we feel that shouldn't happen. The second part of society, we feel that's the majority of society, is where people actually just go underground and drink alcohol. So that's the case because of the fact that once you drink alcohol, you feel like all the benefits of it. And we've seen through the 1920s example of alcohol and how he rose to power was simply because so many people wanted alcohol, and because of the need, there was a demand. Like it's simple economics. If there's a high demand, there'll eventually be a supply. And we feel that's exactly the case that drives our point. We feel that that's exactly what will happen because a lot of people will simply now just turn to this underground version of alcohol, which will lead to more detrimental parts. All right. So the last part of this is people can turn into more hardcore ways of releasing the stress. The side proposition that Amber brought up this idea of like marijuana, sure, that's exactly what people are going to do. Like people might just go and do marijuana, heroin, any other way that can release the stress. The alcohol, in fact, is a better way to release the stress because it's more regulated. It's actually governmentally approved. We can actually regulate the LCD. We can't regulate marijuana. I don't feel that's actually acceptable. All right. So now that I've my partner's first one, let's go to the second point about like the release of stress and how society can actually how people when they're at a sad moment in life, they actually need that period of unrationalization, that period of sorrow, that period of getting drunk, so you don't feel anything about your sadness, so you don't commit suicide. That's an inherent part of what our case is about. We feel that's the most effective way of releasing stress. Like they can argue like there's better ways of releasing stress, like like, I don't know, using those stress balls or something like that. But we feel that alcohol actually is the best way of releasing stress because it actually drowns out all your brain, all rational thoughts, and it takes your brain away from that. So we feel that whatever they say, it's still the most effective way to have a feel that we would like to see reputation, maybe that's what I know.
How do you feel the morning after?
Great. Okay, that just delays it even longer, right? That just delays your anger even longer. That's even more beneficial towards our point. Because now that you delay longer, it gives you like a longer period of break between like actually like trying to go on harm someone, which leads me to some more thorough analysis of my partner's point. We talked about this idea about like when you're angry and then you're rational, then you're more likely to turn the anger into like a rational decision to harm someone that's actually detrimental towards society. Because angry actions that are actually rational lead to more like harmful ways. Because like now that you can actually plan out the way you're going to harm someone, it's going to be a lot more effective as opposed to if you're doing it out of like on the spot impromptu. Because we feel that when you're impromptu and like not only can you not walk and you're drunk as heck, like you're not going to inflict any physical harm. That's not only you're going to inflict any physical harm, you can actually plan out your actions and actually plan out hurting someone. That's actually detrimental. That's actually beneficial for society by getting drunk. Alright, so with that being said, this was some of this debate in two themes. One, will this drinking actually occur, will this drinking actually continue, or will prohibition actually drive into underground drinking? Like that's an important point that came up in this debate. The second thing that came up was like, will this actually harm society or benefit society in the long term? We feel that it actually benefits society in the long term and short term. So let's talk about the first thing about like, will this drinking actually continue or like continue? So I put two analysis and for examples, an Al Capone example, but like why exactly like through the stakeholder analysis, like exactly like the people of that mentality, basically what you're going to happen. Basically what's going to happen is that people are now all of a sudden, they're just going to turn towards that underground way, okay, alcohol. They've said to us that, okay, so Quebec won't support us this time. Yeah, well, even Quebec doesn't support us. Who's to say not something like Colombia or Toronto will say, yeah, alcohol is a much more effective way of making money as opposed to selling heroin. Let's do that. So like, that's what we feel is actually like, just because one country will like, help us doesn't mean another will. I find it funny they pointed out the United States, but actually occurred in the United States. It's great, same country, right? So like what Al Capone does is like, so basically with this underdriving, like with this encouraging amount of like more drinking, what essentially it does is it creates more crime, it creates more easiness about crime. It's hard to explain to you about like, the psychology of crime, how once you commit one crime, it's easy to commit the other crime. Because that's actually prevalent in this debate. Because when Al Capone built his entire gangship, it wasn't because because everyone drank, it's because everyone broke the law first. Now they're being more inclined to break the second law, which would load up into like his ultimate domination as the gang king of America. So government's case line today is, oh, there's going to be a lot of emotional appeal. I've talked to you about, like, the emotional appeal won't matter. If it didn't work for, like, 3,000 years before, why are these most recent 8 years going to be any different? I don't feel that's any correct justification. The second theme, like, what will be, like, will it actually benefit society or detriment society? Basically, all of side government's points have been basically all about, like, how this will help the younger generation about like, drug driving, all these other crimes. We've already put laws on crimes, like those laws are effective, like even if they aren't effective like in a certain way, then we feel that like banning alcohol just makes it more rebel for these teenage people to actually get drunk and then drive. People like get drunk first and then also drive after. Because like committing 2 crimes in a row as opposed to just committing 1 crime, that's not actually justifiable. So then the second point about the whole thing about government's responsibility, like should we do this or not, like the government's responsibility is like to protect people, and with the Al Capone example actually leads to more alcoholism, more crimes, and that the government example should, like that doesn't stand as well. But in our side of the house, we talk to you exactly how like this irrational decision and irrational decision, where you're actually stagnant, it's a period of time where you need to calm down, where you need to actually like be able to be like you actually need to have like a blank slate of mind. You don't have to contribute anything at all. The alcohol does this the most effective way. The alcoholism actually allows you to actually alcohol getting drunk actually allows you to just calm down, not have any like super rational decisions, like carry out your anger in a really detrimental way. We've proven to you why having this period of a hangover and having this period of getting drunk is actually more beneficial because then you won't be able to actualize any physical harm upon other people. Because if you're too drunk to walk, then how are you going to hit someone across the face? I don't see that's actually possible. So with that being said, this debate came down what the debate comes down to like 2 themes. Like the main premise of the first theme is the most important. We still feel that the prohibition, the first example of Al Capone, we don't see why there's a difference from this. Well, we don't see a difference from right now. We feel that that's actually the example still stands, and for these reasons, because of Al Capone's rise, because of the fact that it will just actually hurt society even longer, because people don't have the time, the blank state of mind to actually make a decision. On this side of the house, we want this debate through and through. Thank you.